Did the man who sang Can't Help Falling in Love at his own wedding know his marriage was built on a fragile foundation? Was the voice behind Suspicious Minds describing his own home, a place filled with doubt and distance? When he cried out the lyrics to Hurt on stage, was he feeling the pain of 1,000 sold-out shows, or the singular ache of a love he let slip away? The music of Elvis Presley is a map of a life lived in the brightest of spotlights. But when you look closer, the lyrics become a diary of his most significant and most turbulent relationship. His love for Priscilla was the great epic of his life, and the songs tell the whole story from the hopeful beginning to the devastating end. Number 15 was Love Me Tender, a promise or a demand. When Elvis Presley met Priscilla Beaulieu in Bad Nauheim, Germany, he was 24 years old. He was the most famous man in the world, serving a stint in the U.S. Army. She was 14. Her stepfather was an Air Force captain stationed there. The age gap was not just a number, it was a chasm of life experience. He had seen the world. She had barely left her home. He had millions of dollars. She was a high school freshman. He told her he was lonely. He played her his songs. He presented a vulnerable side that the world never saw. Priscilla's parents were understandably concerned. A global superstar and their young daughter, but Elvis was charming. He was respectful. He visited her home in his uniform and assured them his intentions were honorable. He created a fantasy, a fairy tale, where he was the prince and she was the princess he would one day rescue and bring to his castle, Graceland. But there were conditions to this fairy tale. From the very beginning, he began to mold her. He told her what colors to wear, how to style her hair, how to apply her makeup. He wanted her to be his living doll, a perfect creation to fit into his perfect world. Now think about the song Love Me Tender. It was his first movie, released in 1956 before he even met her. But the lyrics became the anthem of their early courtship. He sang it to her in Germany. It became their song. On the surface, it is a beautiful, simple ballad. A gentle plea for love and affection. Love me tender, love me sweet, never let me go. You have made my life complete, and I love you so. It sounds like a perfect vow, but when you place those words in the context of their actual relationship, they take on a different weight. They sound less like a request and more like a set of instructions. The line, "All my dreams fulfill," is particularly telling. It wasn't about a shared dream. It was about his dream. His dream of a perfect woman, a perfect home, a perfect life that he could control. Priscilla was meant to be the one who fulfilled that dream for him. Her own dreams were secondary. Her dream of finishing high school with her friends, of having a normal teenage life, had to be put aside. Her life was paused for several years while she waited for him to finish his army service and send for her. Even when she finally came to Graceland in 1963, she was kept in a gilded cage. She finished high school at a Memphis Catholic school, but her real education was in how to be Mrs. Elvis Presley. So when he sang Love Me True, was he asking for honesty or for unwavering, unquestioning loyalty? When he sang Never Let Me Go, was it a romantic sentiment or a statement about possession? The tenderness in his voice is undeniable. He likely meant every word with all the sincerity he could muster. He truly did love her. But his concept of love was intertwined with control. He needed to be the sun in her universe. He needed her to complete a picture he had painted in his own mind. The song Love Me Tender, in this light, isn't just a sweet love song. It's the foundational document of their relationship. It's a beautiful, gentle, and utterly devastating demand for a specific kind of love, one that required her to give up a piece of herself before she even knew who she was. The tragedy is that she accepted the terms. She loved him so much that she agreed to fulfill his dreams, not yet knowing what it would cost her to abandon her own. Number 14 is Can't Help Falling in Love, the happiest or saddest wedding song. On May 1st, 1967, Elvis and Priscilla were married at the Aladdin Hotel in Las Vegas. The ceremony lasted only 8 minutes. It was arranged by Elvis's manager, Colonel Tom Parker, primarily as a public relations event. There were more press members present than actual family. The guest list was small and tightly controlled. Many of Elvis's closest friends, the Memphis Mafia who lived with him, were not invited to the ceremony itself. Frank Sinatra loaned them his private jet to get there. The wedding cake cost a reported $3,200, a staggering sum at the time. After years of waiting, years of living under his rules at Graceland, this was supposed to be Priscilla's fairy tale moment, yet it was a rushed, almost clinical affair, sandwiched between Elvis's movie commitments. This was the reality behind the myth. The song chosen for their first dance, a song that would become one of the most popular wedding songs of all time, was Can't Help Falling in Love. And Elvis had recorded it in 1961 for the movie Blue Hawaii. Its melody is based on a classical French love song, Plaisir d'amour, which ironically translates to the pleasure of love. The lyrics of that original song speak of a love that lasts only a moment. The lyrics Elvis sings are pure, simple devotion. Wise men say only fools rush in, but I can't help falling in love with you. It's a surrender. A confession of a love so powerful it defies logic and caution. Take my hand, take my whole life too, for I can't help falling in love with you. This is the ultimate promise. To give your entire existence over to another person, and in a way, that's exactly what Elvis had asked Priscilla to do. She had already given him her hand and her whole life long before that 8-minute ceremony in Las Vegas. But was he giving his whole life to her? His life was already owned by his fame, his manager, his fans, and his own insecurities. He was pulled in a million different directions. The man she married was not the boy she met in Germany. He was a global brand. His life was a whirlwind of movies, recording sessions, and public appearances. Priscilla was expected to be the quiet center of that storm, the anchor at Graceland waiting for him to return. So, when you hear that song now, knowing the context of their wedding day, it's heartbreaking. The sweeping, romantic melody sounds almost tragic. The line, "Shall I stay? Would it be a sin?" hints at a forbidden or questionable love. Given their age difference when they met and the unusual nature of their courtship, that line lands with an uncomfortable weight. He was the wise man who knew better, and the fool who rushed in all at the same time. He had created this relationship, and now he was sealed within it. The song is beautiful, his performance is sincere, but it represents a promise that was almost impossible for him to keep. He couldn't give her his whole life. He could only give her the parts that were left over after the world took its share. At their own wedding, surrounded by press and business associates dancing to a song about total surrender, they were celebrating a love that was already compromised by the very fame that brought them together. It is a devastatingly beautiful song about a love that was, in many ways, doomed from the start. Number 13, what was he searching for in Kentucky Rain? In late 1969, when Elvis recorded Kentucky Rain, his life was a study in contrast. Professionally, he was on top of the world. His 68 comeback special had relaunched his career, transforming him from a movie star into a serious musical force again. He was selling out shows in Las Vegas, performing with a passion and energy he hadn't shown in years. He was back. But personally, his world was beginning to fray. His daughter, Lisa Marie, had been born in February 1968. The birth of their child created a distance between Elvis and Priscilla. He reportedly had difficulty seeing her as a romantic partner after she became a mother. He threw himself into his work, spending long periods in Las Vegas while Priscilla and Lisa Marie stayed at Graceland. The loneliness and isolation that Priscilla felt during this time were immense. She was a young woman, essentially alone in a big house, while her husband lived a completely separate life hundreds of miles away. This was the period when the first real cracks began to appear in their marriage. Elvis was surrounded by people, yet he was deeply lonely. Priscilla was surrounded by silence and just as lonely. Kentucky Rain is a story song. It's about a man walking through a cold, dark rain, desperately searching for a woman who has left him. The lyrics paint a vivid picture of misery and desperation. 7 lonely days and a long, long night of pouring rain. I'm about to go insane. He is walking, hitchhiking, driven by a single purpose to find her and bring her back. The song's narrative is specific. He's in Kentucky, it's raining, and he's looking for a girl. But the emotion behind it is universal. It's the panic of realizing you're about to lose someone you love. When Elvis sings, "She's been gone so long, I've been walking all night long trying to find her," you can hear the exhaustion and the desperation in his voice. This wasn't just a story he was telling, it was a feeling he understood. He was constantly on the move, from Graceland to Hollywood to Vegas. He was the one who was always leaving, but perhaps he sensed that one day he would be the one left behind. Perhaps he felt Priscilla emotionally slipping away from him, even as she waited for him at home. The most powerful part of the song is the bridge. She left me with a note saying, "I'm sorry, but I'm gone, and I'm walking in the rain with my memories and my pain." This is the core of the fear, the finality of a note, the cold reality of being left. Elvis sings these lines with a rawness that feels deeply personal. He may not have been literally walking in the Kentucky rain, but he was walking through the lonely landscape of a failing marriage. He was searching for something he was losing. He was trying to recapture the simple love he once had, a love that was being washed away by fame, distance, and neglect. The song is a premonition. It's a dress rehearsal for a heartbreak that was still a few years away, but was already gathering like a storm cloud on the horizon. He was singing about a man searching for a woman, but on a deeper level, he was singing about his own search for a connection that was slowly, painfully dissolving. Number 12, That I Just Can't Help Believin' captured the last glimmer of hope. The year 1970 was a high point for Elvis as a live performer. The documentary Elvis, That's the Way It Is, captured him in his element in Las Vegas, a charismatic, powerful force on stage. He was confident, funny, and in full command of his voice. He seemed to have it all. The career was soaring. He had a beautiful wife and a young daughter. The image presented to the world was one of complete success. The reality, as always, was more complicated. The distance between Elvis and Priscilla was growing wider. His time in Vegas was all-consuming. Her life at Graceland remained isolated. It was during this period of public triumph and private turmoil that he began performing I Just Can't Help Believin'. The song, written by Barry Mann and Cynthia Weil, is an expression of pure, unadulterated joy and optimism in a relationship. It's about that feeling when you look at the person you love and are overwhelmed by the simple fact that they are real and they are with you. The lyrics are full of wonder. I just can't help believing when she smiles up soft and gentle, with a trace of misty morning and the promise of tomorrow in her eyes. It's a song about the present moment, about seeing the future in someone's gaze. And I just can't help believing when she's lying close beside me, and my heart beats with the rhythm of her sighs. This is a description of profound intimacy, of a deep and peaceful connection. When Elvis sang this song on stage, he sold it completely. His performance was filled with a genuine warmth and a soaring, hopeful energy. He looked like a man who was deeply in love and grateful for it. And maybe in those moments on stage he was. Maybe he was trying to convince himself as much as the audience. Maybe singing those words was a way to conjure the feeling he feared he was losing. He was singing about a woman lying close beside him while his own wife was hundreds of miles away. He was singing about the promise of tomorrow, while the tomorrow of his own marriage was becoming increasingly uncertain. This is what makes the song so devastating in hindsight. It represents the last glimmer of uncomplicated hope. It's the sound of a man trying to hold on to a beautiful feeling that is slipping through his fingers. He could still access that feeling, he could still perform it perfectly, but he couldn't live it day to day. The song is a snapshot of a moment of belief, a moment of pushing all the doubts and fears away and focusing on the good. This time the girl is gonna stay, he sings with such conviction. But he couldn't make her stay. The song isn't about the problems. It's about the willful, hopeful ignorance of them. It's about choosing to believe even when evidence to the contrary is mounting. For Elvis and Priscilla, 1970 was a year of living on that hope. They were still together, they were still a family. There was still a chance to fix things. Like I Just Can't Help Believin' is the soundtrack to that fragile, fleeting moment. It's a beautiful lie he told himself and the world, a desperate incantation to keep the love alive. The power in his voice makes you believe it too. And that makes the eventual failure of that belief all the more painful. Number 11 was In the Ghetto secretly about his own gilded cage. On the surface, In the Ghetto seems like an odd choice for this list. Recorded in 1969, it was one of Elvis's most significant message songs, a powerful and compassionate story about the cycle of poverty and hopelessness. Written by Mac Davis, it tells the story of a boy born in a Chicago ghetto who grows up hungry, learns to steal and fight, and ultimately dies only for another child to be born into the same circumstances. You know, it has nothing to do with love or relationships, but to understand Elvis, you have to understand his profound connection to his own past. He was born in a 2-room shotgun shack in Tupelo, Mississippi. His family was desperately poor. His twin brother, Jesse Garin, was stillborn, a loss that haunted Elvis his entire life. He grew up with the feeling of being an outsider, the poor kid in town. Even after he became the most famous entertainer on earth, that sense of being trapped, of being an underdog, never truly left him. Graceland was his sanctuary, but it was also his prison. He was surrounded by his entourage, but he couldn't just walk down the street. He couldn't go to a movie or a restaurant like a normal person. His life was highly controlled and scheduled. He was trapped by his own fame. Priscilla, in her own way, was just as trapped. She lived in the same house, but her world was even smaller. She was Mrs. Elvis Presley. Her identity was entirely defined by his. She couldn't have her own friends, her own career, her own life. She was a resident of a beautiful, luxurious ghetto. Now listen to the lyrics of In the Ghetto with that in mind. And his mama cries, 'cause if there's one thing that she don't need, it's another hungry mouth to feed in the ghetto. Priscilla was not hungry for food, but she was starving for a real life, for freedom, for her own identity. She was another person that Elvis felt responsible for, another person living within the strange, isolated world he had created. The song is about a cycle of poverty that's impossible to escape. And the world turns, and a hungry little boy with a runny nose plays in the street as the cold wind blows in the ghetto. Elvis and Priscilla were caught in a cycle of their own. A cycle of fame, isolation, codependency, and loneliness. They were stuck in a lifestyle that was glamorous on the outside, but stifling on the inside. He couldn't escape his fame, and as long as she was with him, she couldn't escape it either. When Elvis sings this song, he does so with an incredible empathy. He is singing for the poor boy in Chicago, but he is also singing for the poor boy from Tupelo. He is tapping into that deep personal understanding of what it feels like to be trapped by your circumstances. And in doing so, he gives voice to the unspoken reality of his own life at Graceland. He and Priscilla were living in a cage, a very beautiful one, but a cage nonetheless. The song is a cry for help for the people society has forgotten, but it can also be heard as a subconscious cry for help from a man who had everything, and in a way, had nothing at all. He had created his own ghetto, and he didn't know how to get out. Number 10, how could they escape a trap they built themselves? Suspicious Minds is the quintessential Elvis paranoia anthem. Recorded in the legendary 1969 American Sound Studio sessions in Memphis, it became his 18th and final #1 single in the United States. The song is a powerhouse. It's driving, energetic, and filled with a frantic, desperate passion. It sounds like a man on the edge, fighting for a love that is being torn apart by doubt and mistrust. And that's exactly what it was. By 1969, the fairy tale was over. The marriage was in serious trouble. Elvis was spending most of his time performing in Las Vegas, surrounded by temptation. He was not faithful to Priscilla. Back at Graceland, Priscilla was young, beautiful, and profoundly lonely. She began taking karate lessons and started an affair with her instructor, Mike Stone. It was a bid for connection, for attention, for a life outside the shadow of her husband. Both Elvis and Priscilla were living with secrets. Their home was no longer a sanctuary. It was a place of quiet accusations and unspoken resentments. The lyrics of Suspicious Minds, written by Mark James, were a perfect accidental mirror of their lives. We're caught in a trap. I can't walk out because I love you too much, baby. This single line is a perfect summary of the state of their marriage. They were both trapped. He was trapped by his image and his needs. She was trapped by her love for him and the life he had given her. Leaving seemed impossible. The love was still there, buried under layers of hurt and suspicion, but it was real. And it was that love that kept them locked together in a painful dance. The song's central plea is, we can't go on together with suspicious minds, and we can't build our dreams on suspicious minds. They were trying to live the dream of being Elvis and Priscilla, the perfect couple, while living the reality of two people who no longer trusted each other. Every late-night phone call, every unexplained absence, every quiet moment was filled with suspicion. The foundation of their relationship had eroded. Elvis's performance of this song is what makes it so legendary. It's not just a song, it's an exorcism. When he sings, "Oh, let our love survive," or "Dry the tears from your eyes," it's a desperate, gut-wrenching plea. He invests every ounce of his own emotional turmoil into the performance. The famous false ending in the song, where the music fades out and then comes roaring back, is a perfect musical metaphor for their relationship. Just when it seems like it's over, it comes back, just as intense and unresolved as before. They were stuck in a loop of breaking up and making up, of hurting each other and then trying to heal. Suspicious Minds is not just a song about jealousy. It's a song about the agony of being in a relationship where the trust is gone, but the love isn't. It's about the self-inflicted pain of staying with someone you can't fully believe in anymore. For Elvis and Priscilla, the trap was real. It was made of love, fame, dependency, and history. And for a long time, neither of them could find the courage to walk out. They just kept hurting each other, caught in a cycle of suspicion that would eventually, inevitably, tear them apart. Number 9, What Does a Man Say When He Knows It's Over? It's Over was recorded by Elvis in 1972, but he had been performing it live for some time before that. The song is a grand, operatic ballad of heartbreak. It's not a song about a slow, lingering breakup. It's about the exact moment a relationship dies. The final, dramatic, curtain-falling end. The music swells, the emotions are huge, and Elvis's voice soars to incredible heights. It is a performance of epic finality. The timing is crucial. By 1972, the marriage was effectively finished. Priscilla had begun a serious relationship with Mike Stone. The separation was imminent. Elvis knew he was losing her. The arguments, the distance, and the betrayals had taken their toll. The love that had defined his adult life was gone, and he was powerless to stop it from disappearing. He was the king, a man used to getting whatever he wanted, and he could not keep the one thing he wanted most. The lyrics are stark and brutal. Your sweet lips that I used to kiss are now telling me goodbye, and your warm hands that I used to hold are now pushing me aside. This is a description of physical rejection, of intimacy turning into distance. It's the painful, tangible evidence that love has ended. He's not just being told it's over, he's feeling it. It's over, it's over. My love, it's over. The repetition is like a man trying to force himself to accept a reality his heart refuses to believe. The song builds to a massive emotional climax. All the rainbows in the sky are starting to fade and die, and the road that we used to walk is coming to an end. This is the language of total devastation. It's not just a relationship ending, it's the entire world losing its color. The future they had planned together has vanished. Elvis delivers these lines with a theatricality that borders on anguish. It's a performance designed to fill a massive concert hall, but the emotion at its core is intensely personal and raw. On stage, he would often drop to one knee at the end of the song, a gesture of complete and utter defeat. It was pure showmanship, but it was rooted in a genuine, deep-seated pain. He was acting out the destruction of his own marriage for thousands of paying customers every night. He was turning his private agony into public spectacle. When Priscilla finally told him she was leaving, the conversation was reportedly quiet and sad, not dramatic and theatrical. But this song is how he processed the drama inside his own head. It's the sound of his world crashing down. It's Over is devastating because it's not a reflection on a breakup. It's the sound of the breakup itself. It's the raw, immediate shock of loss, magnified and projected through one of the most powerful voices in the history of music. He is telling the audience a story about a breakup, but he is really just telling them his own story in the present tense. It was happening to him right then, and this song was his only way of screaming about it. Number 8, How Do You Say Goodbye to the Life You Built? In February 1972, Elvis and Priscilla separated. She moved out of Graceland, taking their daughter Lisa Marie with her. The split was, by all accounts, painful but amicable. They still loved each other, but they could no longer live with each other. The trap of suspicious minds had finally been sprung. They were free, but they were also adrift. For Elvis, the man who needed a stable home life, a queen for his castle, the loss was profound. Just a month later, in March 1972, Elvis was in a recording studio in Hollywood. He was there to record a few songs, and one of them was Separate Ways. The song, co-written by his friend Red West, was an explicit, almost documentary-like account of a couple breaking up for the sake of their child. It's a quiet, somber, and deeply sad song. There is no soaring drama like in It's Over. There is only the dull, heavy ache of resignation. The lyrics are astonishingly direct. Separate ways, we're going our separate ways. And it's not the love that's dying, it's the times we're living in that are changing. This is a rationalization, an attempt to find a reason for the failure that doesn't place blame. It's an admission that they have grown into two different people who want different things. Priscilla wanted a life of her own, a normal life. Elvis was trapped in his extraordinary one. The most heartbreaking lines are about their child. There's nothing left to do but go our separate ways, and pick up the pieces left of me and you, and maybe, the pieces will be the child we knew. This is the brutal reality of divorce. The love between the couple is broken, and the only thing that can be salvaged is their shared love for their child. They have to find a new way to be a family that lives in two different houses. Another verse cuts even deeper. You're dreaming a dream I can never share, and you're not to blame for just being you, and I'm not to blame for not being him you're dreaming of. This is a direct acknowledgement of Priscilla's new relationship. He understands that she has found someone else, someone who can give her the normal life she craves. He's not angry, he's just heartbroken. He's admitting that he cannot be the man she needs anymore. Elvis's vocal performance is subdued and full of sorrow. He's not performing for a crowd, he's singing from a place of deep personal grief. This song was recorded just weeks after his family fell apart. The wounds were fresh. He was living these lyrics in real time. Separate Ways is the sound of a man trying to be mature and understanding in the face of the worst pain of his life. He is trying to accept the unacceptable. It's a quiet song, but its devastation lies in its honesty. It's the practical, painful, and unglamorous sound of a marriage ending. No drama, just two people agreeing to walk away, leaving the pieces of their life scattered on the floor. Number 7 was Always on My Mind, an apology he could never give in person. On the same day Elvis recorded Separate Ways, March 29th, 1972, he also recorded Always on My Mind. It's one of the most famous and beloved songs of his later career, an anthem of regret and belated appreciation. The juxtaposition of these two songs being recorded in the same session is staggering. Separate Ways is the quiet acceptance of the end. Always on My Mind is the emotional fallout, the flood of regret that comes after the decision has been made. The song had been written a couple years earlier, but for Elvis, in that moment, it was not just a song. It was a confession. He was singing directly to Priscilla. The separation was only weeks old. The pain and the second thoughts were raw. He was a man who was notoriously bad at communicating his deepest feelings in person. He spoke best through his music. This song was the conversation he probably couldn't have. It was his apology. The lyrics are a catalog of neglect and regret. Maybe I didn't treat you quite as good as I should have. Maybe I didn't love you quite as often as I could have. This is a direct admission of his failures as a husband. He was away so often, he was distracted, he was unfaithful. He took her presence for granted. He knows he messed up, and now it's too late. Little things I should have said and done, I just never took the time. This is the lament of every person who realizes what they had only after it's gone. The small moments of kindness, the words of appreciation, the simple gestures of loveness, he let them all slip by. The chorus is what makes the song a masterpiece of heartbreak. You were always on my mind. You were always on my mind. He's trying to tell her that even when he was physically absent, even when his actions suggested otherwise, she was still the center of his world. He is pleading for her to understand that his neglect was not a sign of a lack of love, but a sign of his own flaws, his own inability to be the husband she deserved. Tell me that your sweet love hasn't died. Give me one more chance to keep you satisfied. It's a desperate last-ditch plea for forgiveness and reconciliation, but he had just recorded Separate Ways. He knew rationally that it was over. This song is the irrational cry of his heart, refusing to accept the decision his mind has made. He sings it with a profound sense of sorrow and sincerity. His voice is filled with a weary, pleading quality. It's not the voice of the king of rock and roll. It's the voice of a man who has lost his queen and knows it's his own fault. Always on my mind is devastating because it is a perfect, eloquent apology delivered too late. It's everything Priscilla probably needed to hear from him for years, and he's finally saying it when she's already gone. The song is a monument to his regret. He built a castle and put her in it, but he forgot to tend to the relationship that was supposed to make it a home. And now, standing in the rubble, he's finally realizing what he has done. Number 6, what was the mountain he couldn't climb? In 1973, Elvis's divorce from Priscilla was finalized. That same year, he recorded a live album, L'Aloha, from Hawaii via satellite, the first concert to be broadcast globally. It was a massive technical achievement and a huge success. On that album, he performed a song that seemed to capture the epic scale of his recent personal struggles, You Gave Me a Mountain. The song, written by Marty Robbins, is a dramatic story of a man facing a series of overwhelming life challenges. It's a catalog of suffering. He is betrayed by his friends, abandoned by his lover, who takes their child, and left to face the world alone. The central metaphor is powerful. You gave me a mountain I may never climb. And it's a long, long way from the bottom to the top. For Elvis in 1973, this was not just a story, it was his life amplified for the stage. The mountain was his divorce. The mountain was the loss of his family. The mountain was his declining health and his increasing reliance on prescription drugs. The mountain was the crushing loneliness of being Elvis Presley. Let's look at the lyrics he was singing to a global audience of over 1 billion people. Born in the heat of the desert, my mother died giving me life. Deprived of the love of a father, blamed for the loss of his wife. This opening verse wasn't literally true for Elvis, but it sets a tone of being born into struggle and blame, a feeling he may have harbored deep inside. But the next verses were devastatingly accurate. My woman took off with my baby, moved out of my life with my friend. Priscilla had left. She had taken Lisa Marie, and she was in a relationship with another man. He was singing his own truth. The song is a declaration of defiance in the face of that pain. But this is the mountain that I must climb. I'm going to get up and find a new world that's waiting for me. It's a statement of resilience. He's telling the world and himself that he will overcome this. He will survive. But the sheer effort in his voice tells another story. You can hear the strain. You can hear how heavy the mountain truly is. When he sings it live, it's a battle. He's pushing his voice. He's pouring every ounce of his pain and frustration into the performance. The orchestra swells behind him, making his personal struggle feel like a Greek tragedy. This wasn't just entertainment. This was therapy. He was processing his grief in the only way he knew how on stage, in front of millions of people. The tragedy of You Gave Me a Mountain is that he never truly climbed it. The divorce marked the beginning of his final, tragic decline. The loneliness and the pain only deepened in the years that followed. He sang about conquering the mountain, but in reality the mountain was conquering him. He put on a brave face for the world, singing this anthem of survival, but behind the scenes, he was slowly being crushed by the weight of it all. The song is a powerful statement of intent, but it's a promise to himself that he ultimately couldn't keep, making it one of the most poignant and devastating performances of his career. Number 5. Who Was He Crying For? In I'm So Lonesome, I Could Cry. Elvis had a deep love for country music, the music of his youth. He had a special reverence for Hank Williams, one of the most tragic and brilliant figures in American music. In 1973, for the Aloha from Hawaii concert, Elvis performed a stunning version of Williams' signature song, I'm So Lonesome, I Could Cry. It's a song of profound, almost cosmic loneliness. Hank Williams wrote it from a place of deep personal pain, and Elvis, in the wake of his divorce, was living in that same place. Introducing the song to the massive global audience, Elvis said, "I'd like to sing a song that's probably the saddest song I've ever heard." That introduction is key. He wasn't just performing a classic, he was making a personal statement. He was telling the world, this is how I feel. The lyrics are simple, poetic, and utterly bleak. They use images from nature to paint a picture of complete desolation. Here, that lonesome whippoorwill, he sounds too blue to fly. The midnight train is whining low, I'm so lonesome I could cry. The singer is so consumed by his own sadness that the entire world seems to be weeping with him. The bird, the train, the moon, everything is a reflection of his own internal state. When Elvis sings these words, his voice is a thing of quiet, beautiful despair. He doesn't overdo it. He doesn't add the theatricality of, you gave me a mountain. He just lets the sadness of the lyrics speak through him. And he sings with a reverence for the original, but he inhabits the song so completely that it becomes his own. The loneliness he's singing about is no longer Hank Williams's, it's his. Consider his life at this moment. He has just gone through the most painful experience of his life. The woman he had loved since she was a teenager was gone. His daughter was no longer living under his roof. He would return from this triumphant global broadcast to an empty house. Graceland, once a bustling center of his universe, was now just a big, quiet mansion. He was surrounded by employees and friends, but he was fundamentally deeply alone. The silence of a falling star lights up a purple sky. And as I wonder where you are, I'm so lonesome I could cry. This verse in particular must have resonated with him. He was a falling star in his own way, his health and happiness in decline. And the question, I wonder where you are, was not a rhetorical one. He was thinking of Priscilla. He was thinking of the family life he no longer had. By choosing to sing this song, the saddest song he's ever heard, at the peak of his global fame, Elvis was sending a message. He was pulling back the curtain for a moment and showing the world the truth behind the sequin jumpsuit. The king was a lonely man. His performance is devastating because of its understatement. It's the sound of a man who is no longer fighting his sadness, but simply sitting with it, letting it wash over him. It's a quiet, beautiful, and completely heartbreaking confession. Number 4, did he see himself in Are You Lonesome Tonight? Are You Lonesome Tonight was a song Elvis recorded way back in 1960, shortly after returning from the army. It became a massive hit. It's a sentimental spoken word ballad about a man asking his former lover if she is as lonely as he is. For years, it was just another one of his classic hits. But in the later years of his career after the divorce, the song took on a new, much deeper meaning. The most famous later version is the Lawing version from a 1969 Las Vegas show where Elvis cracks up at a backup singer. But the performances from the mid-1970s are no laughing matter. They are freighted with the weight of his real-life loneliness. He was no longer just reciting a script. He was asking a genuine question to an audience of thousands, and perhaps to one person who wasn't there. The song is structured like a play. The man remembers a time when he and his lover played their parts in a romance. I had a part and you had one too. You read your lines so cleverly and never missed a cue. He then talks about the end of the play when she left. Then came the day you left me. You said our love was through, and you were gone, and I had no one, dear, to tell my troubles to. This line in particular must have hit him hard. Priscilla was his confidante for most of his adult life. He told her everything. After she left, that intimacy was gone. The core of the song is the spoken word section, famously adapted from Shakespeare. The world is a stage, and each must play a part. Fate had me playing in love with you as my sweetheart. He speaks of how he looked at her and his heart was filled with glee, but he questions if he was a fool. But I'd be a fool to ever doubt you, dear. For you were a vision of beauty, I swear. He is absolving her of blame, just as he did in Separate Wayses. But it's the final question of the song that becomes so devastating when sung by the Elvis of the mid-70s. Are you lonesome tonight? Do you miss me tonight? Are you sorry we drifted apart? He is no longer just singing a song. He is asking Priscilla a direct question. He is wondering if she, like him, sits alone at night and thinks about what they lost. He is hoping that she feels the same ache that he does. In his final years, he often seemed adrift and lonely on stage. His performances could be erratic, but when he sang a song like this, he connected with the material in a way that was almost painful to watch. He was a man living on memories. The stage was his world, and he was playing the part of Elvis Presley, the superstar. But in these quiet moments, he would break character and become just a man, a lonely man, asking the woman he lost if she was lonely too. The hope and the pain in that question are what make the song so utterly heartbreaking. He never got an answer, at least not the one he wanted. Number 3, how much pain can one voice hold in the word hurt? By 1976, Elvis was in a steep physical and emotional decline. He was overweight, his health was failing, and his performances were becoming increasingly unpredictable. He was still capable of moments of incredible brilliance, but they were often surrounded by a sense of tragedy. You know, it was in this period that he latched onto the song Hurt. It wasn't a new song. It had been a hit for Timmy Euro in the 1960s. But in Elvis's hands, it became something else entirely. It became a primal scream of pain. Hurt is not a song of subtle regret. It is a full-throated, operatic, no-holds-barred declaration of agony. The lyrics are simple and direct. I'm so hurt to think that you would lie to me. I'm hurt way down deep inside of me. You said your love was true and we'd never ever part. Now you've found someone new and it breaks my heart. This is the raw, unvarnished pain of betrayal and abandonment. There is no mature acceptance here, no quiet resignation. This is the angry, wounded cry of a man who cannot believe what has happened to him. He is not just sad, he is hurt. The word itself is repeated over and over like a mantra of misery. When Elvis performed this song live, it was an event. He would pour every last drop of his energy and vocal power into it. His voice, even in his declining years, was an instrument of immense force, and he used it to its full capacity on this song. He would belt out holding them for an impossibly long time, his face contorted in what looked like genuine anguish. At the end, he would often collapse to the floor, a piece of pure gut-wrenching showmanship that felt terrifyingly real. He was singing about Priscilla. There is no doubt he was still obsessed with her years after the divorce. He never found another relationship that could replace what he had lost. In his mind, she had left him for another man, and the pain of that rejection had never faded. It had festered. This song was his way of letting it out. The devastation of hurt lies in its raw, unfiltered power. This is the sound of a man who has given up on pretending to be okay. He is showing the audience his gaping wound. The sophisticated regrets of Always on My Mind are gone. The quiet sadness of Separate Ways is a distant memory. All that is left is the pain. He sings, I'm so hurt, much more than you'll ever know, and you believe him. Watching him perform this song in his final years is difficult. You are witnessing a man self-destructing on stage, using his incredible talent to articulate a pain that is destroying him from the inside out. He is not just singing about being hurt, he is embodying it. It is a terrifying and unforgettable performance, a public display of private agony from a man who had lost the one person he could never get over. Number two was My Way, his anthem of defiance, or a confession of failure. My Way is one of the most famous anthems of self-assertion ever written. Popularized by Frank Sinatra, it became a song for people who lived life on their own terms. When Elvis added it to his concerts in the 1970s, it seemed like a perfect fit. He was, after all, Elvis Presley. He had changed the world by doing things his way. But coming from the Elvis of the post-divorce era, the song takes on a much more complex and tragic meaning. The lyrics, written by Paul Anka, are a look back on a life nearing its end. And now the end is near, and so I face the final curtain. My friend, I'll say it clear, I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full, I traveled each and every highway. And more, much more than this, I did it my way. It's a statement of pride, of a life lived without regret. But did Elvis live without regret? We know he was filled with it. His biggest regret was losing Priscilla. So when he stood on stage and sang these words, what was he really saying? Was he trying to convince himself, or was he admitting something deeper? Regrets, I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. This line is the most glaring contradiction. Elvis had huge regrets. His regret over his marriage was a constant theme in his life after 1972. By singing this line, he is either lying to himself and the audience, or he is engaging in a form of defiant self-defense. He is building a wall around his pain, refusing to let it define him publicly. The most telling part of the song, in the context of his relationship with Priscilla, is the central theme of doing things my way. It was his insistence on doing things his way that ultimately destroyed their marriage. He controlled her life. He dictated the terms of their relationship. He refused to change his lifestyle. He was unfaithful. He did it all his way, and his way led to her leaving. So when he sings, yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew, when I bit off more than I could chew. But through it all, when there was doubt, I ate it up and spit it out. I faced it all, and I stood tall and did it my way. He is describing the very behavior that cost him his family. He is framing his stubbornness and his inability to compromise as a strength. But the result of that strength was his profound loneliness. His performance of the song was always powerful and sincere. He believed it. He had to. To admit that his way was the wrong way would be to admit that his entire life, the life he had so carefully constructed, was a mistake. He couldn't do that. So instead, he sang this song as an anthem. It was a declaration that even if his choices led to pain, they were his choices, and he would stand by them. My Way is devastating because it is a monument to a tragic, self-destructive pride. It's the sound of a man trying to turn his biggest failure into a victory. He lost the love of his life because he insisted on doing things his way, and then he stood on stage and proudly sang a song celebrating that very fact. It is perhaps the most profound and heartbreaking act of denial in the history of popular music. Number one, who was he singing to at the very end? In June 1977, just 2 months before he died, Elvis's final concert tour was filmed for a television special, Elvis in Concert. The man on the screen was a shadow of his former self. He was bloated, pale, and sweating profusely. He forgot lyrics. He rambled between songs. It was a painful and shocking sight. But then, in the middle of this tragic decline, there was a moment of pure, transcendent beauty and pain. He sat down at the piano, an instrument he rarely played on stage, and performed Unchained Melody. The performance is almost unbearable to watch. He is clearly unwell, his breathing is labored, but when he begins to sing, all of that falls away, and all that is left is the voice. And the voice is filled with a lifetime of longing and heartbreak. Unchained Melody is a song about desperate, aching love for someone who is far away. It is a prayer for their return. The lyrics are a direct address to a lost love. Oh, my love, my darling, I've hungered for your touch a long, lonely time. He sings the word lonely as if it is the only word he has ever known. His eyes are closed. He is not in a concert hall in front of thousands of people. He is somewhere else entirely, a private place of memory and regret. Time goes by so slowly, and time can do so much. Are you still mine? This question, coming from this broken man at the end of his life, is shattering. He had been divorced from Priscilla for 4 years, but in his heart he had never let her go. His friends and family reported that he spoke of her constantly, that he still considered her the love of his life. In his mind, the question, "Are you still mine?" was not rhetorical. It was a genuine, desperate plea. The climax of the song is a cry to the heavens. I need your love. I need your love. God, speed your love to me. He pushes his voice to its limit, the veins in his neck standing out. This is not a performance anymore. This is a prayer. He is a man at the end of his rope, begging for the one thing that he believes can save him the love of the woman he lost. He is singing directly to Priscilla. Everyone in his inner circle knew it. Like, this was his final message to her. He was pouring all of his remaining life force into this one song, this one last attempt to bridge the distance between them. The tragedy is that she was not there to hear it. She was living her own life, a life she had fought so hard to create for herself, away from him. Unchained Melody, in this context, is the most devastating lyric Elvis ever sang. It is the final, heartbreaking chapter of their story. It is the sound of a man who achieved every dream he ever had, except for the one that mattered most. He had the fame, the money, the adoration of millions, but he was dying of a broken heart. He sang of a lonely river flowing to the sea, to the open arms of the sea. For Elvis, the sea was Priscilla. He spent the last years of his life trying to get back to her, and this song was his final, futile, and absolutely unforgettable attempt. It is the purest expression of love and loss he ever committed to tape, and it is the sound of his very soul crying out in the dark.